welcome back to another episode of Releasing the Genius podcast, where we interview extraordinary people that have had an impact to those around them or to the people around the world.
And we're in person today in this great place. So I'm really excited to introduce someone who was a Spirit of Math alumni, or actually he still is with Spirit of Math. He is a student who studies with us, and it's pretty amazing what he's doing. Nathan's going to tell you what he's doing.
Yeah, so he was interviewed at the most recent Spirit of Math conference. This was in front of, I think, 100 people, and just seeing his personality and how he holds himself was actually quite astonishing. I've actually had the chance to travel the world with him in Korea and in China. So Tai Poole is only 13 years old, but he's 100% dedicated to asking life's toughest questions. Like, what are animals saying to each other? Why is space so dark? What is the science behind bullying? So you should join Tai as he boldly goes where no 8th grader has gone before to find your answers you never knew you needed on the award-winning CBC podcast, Tai Asks Why. And that is the brief intro to Tai and his podcast. So Tai Poole is a frustrated 8th grader who is always searching for answers. A student at the Spirit of Math Toronto campus since grade 3, Tai represented Canada twice at the World Mathematical Olympiad in Seoul and Beijing. That's where I first got to get to know him. And is an accomplished pianist and dedicated swimmer. He was born in Vietnam. Tai moved to Canada when he was 3 years old and has remained a world traveler with an insatiable curiosity. His podcast, Tai Asks Why, is currently recording its 3rd season and will be out in late 2020 on CBC Podcasts. You can find his podcasts at www.cbc.ca/radio/Tai Asks Why. And so that his name is TAI, so Tai Asks Why. I would say definitely check it out.
It is a really amazing. The questions he asks is phenomenal and so interesting. I think even adults would be interested in listening to it. While you listen to this interview with Tai and myself, I want you to look at, first of all, his character, his inquisitiveness and his curiosity, which is something that today in education, we say is one of the most important traits that a person has. There are several traits. One is rigor, another is discipline, and this curiosity. And the more we can improve curiosity in children, then the better they are at problem solving because they're starting to ask the right questions. So as you listen to this, have a look at really how young he is, the types of questions, how he responds is incredible, how quickly he responds, his inquisitiveness, the fact that he's a risk taker, he's not scared to try things, and he doesn't hesitate to do things. Instead, he jumps in with both feet, and he wants to just explore and see what this world is about. So once again, listen to him carefully and also listen to his questions and how he responds to me and where he takes his answers. It's really fascinating and it's exciting.
Hello. So I make a podcast with the CBC, and I go around and I'm inquisitive, like you said, thank you. And I just go and I ask questions, and fortunately, because I'm doing it with the CBC, I have a little more connections, a little bit more reputation than I would at the beginning. So I get to talk to some really awesome people about just questions that I have, and I want to make sure I make the most of it.
What kind of questions do you think about?
Well, they're all kind of like scientific, but it's like a philosophical thing. So it's a real scientific answer to some stuff like that. Things like dreams and love and death.
Oh.
Okay. Deep questions.
All right. So when you're looking at dreams and love and death, who do you go to ask these questions, or do you answer them all yourself?
Oh, I don't really know the answers. Well, I do now, but I go to, I do now. That's the point of the podcast. But I interview a variety of people about many different subjects. I've interviewed NASA. I've interviewed Neil deGrasse Tyson. Who's my personal hero. That was amazing. And just I interview people who are like the best of their field and are really passionate what they're talking about, so they can, match my passion about the topic too.
Cool. So when you're talking to them, how do you prepare for this?
Okay, so we'll get an email or like an update to a little Google sheet. And it'll be like you're interviewing this person at this time. So I just like to go on my computer, I like to type stuff up, and I like to kind of do like a little bit of like an extensive background research, because I find it's always good to know how important and to be awestruck, because the more I'm like, oh, okay, that's this person, the more I feel like it betters my interview, because I'm like, I can't possibly waste their time. They could be inventing things in this time.
Interesting. So in the very beginning, before you started this, like, what made you think of doing this, and how did you get into it?
Stroke of luck. And there's a really long story, and I think I have 30 minutes, so time to go on a super long rant, guys. No. So in grade 4, I had this great teacher, right? And he was friends with another CBC podcast maker named Soo-Kyun Lee for a podcast called Sleepover. And for the podcast, she needed a kid. So he put me up for it. And I met the producer of this podcast while filming the episode, Veronica Simmons, who was super nice, and I feel like we hit it off pretty well, as the story might say. And then a couple years later, I'm just chilling on my couch. I just finished my homework, so I'm doing some video games. And then I hear this blood-curdling scream from my mom's room. And I thought that she was like stabbed or something. And I totally freaked out. And then she says that she just got an email from Veronica Simmons saying that she just would like to try to meet up with me again and maybe talk about the potential of my own spin-off podcast. So we talked about it, and then we did long trial and error. We had to think of the idea, pitch it, and then we got to make a pilot. Again, super lucky. I think, they just thought I was his kid, and they're like, let's give him a chance. So then we developed this pilot, and then, I feel like the two of us really teamed up, and we showed them what we're made of, and then they said, yeah.
So what made you think of this pilot? Like, how did you come up with it?
Well, it was a lot of brainstorming. There were a lot of really wacky ideas.
What were your other ideas?
Well, one of the other ideas was supposed to be the other way around, kind of like people came to me. It was kind of like, I think it was like something originally like Dr. Phil or something, and it's just this kid or something. But there's a lot of really weird ideas, but none of them really hit it off in the same way that, I was curious. And at the end of the episode, I'm not curious.
I want to ask you something that's a little different. What do you do in your free time?
Well, I have if I'm not trying to deal with homework, which is homework, or extracurriculars, like I do piano and I swim and I have spirit of math. I'm actually a student here too, which is awesome. It's a great.
Yes.
But just to try to be subtle about it. But other than that, I just like to be normal. I hang out with friends. I play video games.
Okay. So what do your friends say about you in this? Yeah.
Well, I've been asked this question many times, and I like to answer, I don't like to mix business with pleasure.
Okay. So do you not find pleasure in business?
Oh, no, I love it. But I just feel like a lot of the time, it's more just like an alter ego. They don't really know about this other Tai.
Oh.
There's like professional Tai, that's a great interviewer. And then there's the other Tai that
hangs out. Good job, Tai. You seem to really enjoy this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think makes you enjoy it? What is it?
When you're curious about something, and then you go to ask your dad or your mom, and then you're like, hold on. They don't have any idea because it's like complex molecular astrophysics or something like that. And it's super complicated and, they have no idea. So you're just curious. You can go on Google and then Google will like answer the question like a half-hearted way and you get a whole bunch of targeted ads for like telescopes or something. And you just don't really know, and that's the thing. Curiosity is just such a great way to drive you to do things that, you know, if you're curious, and since I'm getting these questions answered finally, no offense, Mom, you didn't major in this type of thing. It's just such a good feeling, you know, it really is a good drive, and you want to strive for more answers, and it's, you know, driven by your own curiosity.
Well, that's really interesting you say curiosity. How do you develop a curiosity? Because this is one thing I've noticed about you is you're always very curious. And how do you think, like where does that come from and how do you develop it? What do you think?
I don't really know, but I feel like a lot of it can be done through like maybe observation of the world and things. Because you see things, and we know, you know how science and math tries to explain everything that happens. So I think it's just, you just see things and you experience things, and then you just wonder how it works.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. So, can I just ask you, what other places and experiences have you had that allows you to learn?
Well, fortunately, our family's been lucky enough to be able to travel quite often, and a lot. We also like to go to New Zealand a lot, which is where my mom's from, and it's such a great place. And it seems like your beach getaway, the country, like the big massive island full of them, and everyone's happy. And you know, I was also born in Vietnam, so we go there a lot too. And it's just really interesting just to see, you know, how you can go to a totally different place, and it's just such a different environment and landscape, because, you know, it's a different place. Otherwise, it would be very interesting. And it's just super interesting to see, like, how things are different, but also how things are the same, you know? And the food.
Yeah, so just being exposed to that, I guess, is huge. All right, does anyone have some questions? I have one more question I'm going to ask him at Tai at the end. Yes? Favorite video games?
Well, I tend to be passionate about the new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate game. Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Super excited for Terry Bogard for anyone in the crowd.
Back there. Oh, the purpose of your long hair. Is there a meaning behind it?
Yes, it's like it stores all my knowledge. No, I like long hair. I just kind of like, one of these times I just grew it out, and I never was like, well, I want to get a haircut, and then you just go along and like, wow, this is nice. I'm sorry.
How are you applying all your different knowledge that you acquire from different people?
Well, you know, again, like, other than outside, just having the curiosity, I won't necessarily find a very important use for figuring out the trends in dolphin communication. Maybe in school it's not like necessarily applied, maybe in an aquarium, but other than that, I think it'll be important, because then later when I grow up and I try to see what I want to pursue, if I want to be like a scientist or an engineer, I want to try to innovate or invent or anything like that, I just feel like it's very important to know a lot about things so I can understand and I can use that for further inquiries and applications.
The one thing I'll be there in a second. The one thing I think is really cool is that this is also being used for curriculum now. And there's actually a whole curriculum being created around all of these series. So you can even look it up and see some of it. So it's not just about what you're going to use it for, it's what everybody else can use it for. And you're bringing that right out to kids. It's really nice. And a question over there, quickly.
My dad always explains this one really well, but he's in Australia, so it wouldn't be a great time. Right now it's like 5 a.m. But I don't know, I just felt like from a very young age, you know, everyone has their thing. Everyone likes math, art, you're really into like football or something like that. At a very young age, I just liked math, because math seems just to be just simple. It's just logic. It's just this, and then you make that. And then you use that to get more advanced and more advanced, and it's all patterns, and there's just these very strict rules about how things work, and other than that, it's just a total sandbox for you to do whatever, except divide by 0.
Okay. Maybe one day you'll figure out something better than divide by 0.
Until then, that's a no-no.
Okay. Actually, it's a very good answer. Yesterday, some people were talking about that and why learn math and what's exciting about math, and you've just answered that really nicely.
I really like the travel because it's another good way to just see the world from a different way, help expand your views on things because, like my brother was born in Canada, and I guess if we never traveled, like it kind of limits how you see things. And when you just go to new places and experience totally different things, it's just such an enlightening experience to just be able to like understand and just, experience, like I just said, things in a new light. You get to just experience. Sorry, that was just super cyclical, but.
Okay. What was the question? How do you ask the right questions?
Honestly, I don't know. A lot of the times I just ask a question and it's like, it's right, and every once in a while it's wrong, and then we just got it out of the episode. I don't know. It's just like you get an answer and then you're like, but that also makes another question, so then you keep asking and then it makes a conversation. And you just wing it and you're lucky enough that it works. Or then you use movie editing magic. It's hard, but I think, the important thing is that some people are driven by like the need to get good grades, and some people just don't really have a drive. But like I mentioned a little bit before, we need to try to fuel curiosity because it's not only just a drive for people to strive to get better and learn for themselves, which especially applies to things like school, but it's also self-feeding because if you're really able to fuel curiosity, like, you'll teach them, they'll be gone, and you won't teach them anymore because you're like you were taught how to teach a specific grade. But if you can really fuel curiosity, they push through the year, they're interested, they want to learn more, but then after, they still you taught them and fueled them to be curious. So they keep asking and they keep doing things and they just keep improving.
Feeling of discovery is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The one where it's like you look under the microscope and you're like, what?
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right. One more over there.
Well, I'm gonna start with death, and that kind of sounds like it sucks and it's gonna make everyone sad, but it wasn't really. And the unfortunate thing about death is that you can't really track your observations and what's going on for, semi-obvious reasons. You can't be like, oh shoot, am I dead right now? Oh man, I smell pretty dead, and then you write it down and that type of thing. You can't really do that. So I did turn to a lot of philosophy, and one of my most important findings there was just this revelation I got with an interview with a rabbi. And it was just, this is gonna kind of sound like it sucks, but the feeling of death itself is just easy, right? Because it's just you dying, and you think it's gonna be super scary because you're like, you're just dying, but it's everything about death that's scary is just everything that's just leading up to the death. But when you die, it's just, it just ends. You just go on the journey. And I found that was really, helpful because you truly get at peace because you kind of, you might get freaked out that you die, but when you die, you're just, like, you can just very gently just be sent to the afterlife. Weird hand motions. And on a slightly lighter topic, for love, this is always one that I'm not always super comfortable talking about. It's always makes me just kind of like, but I learned it's important to learn that, like, although everyone, you're always gonna have that one dude in the room that's like, love is a chemical reaction in your brain, it drives us to me and that stuff, but although it is chemicals, in a way that's good because, when you love someone, like my mom, there's like important, like there's an important connection. You're being given chemicals, you're being feeling these ways because it's an important type of bond. And dreams are whack. I think that's the best way to describe them.
I have one last question, and this question is, how do you find happiness?
Feng Shui. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I did like more than half of those no-nos. It was, I realized I was blocking all my chi. It was kind of bad. Like, I live right above the stove with my head facing there in a slanted room. I'm not even kidding. We're not very good at that. So, yeah. Unfortunately, it's not Feng Shui. I don't know, I just...
It seems like you just find joy in everything, right?
Yep.
Good for you.
Yeah, I just find, be happy because we're not here forever. And, it sucks that we're not here forever, but, we're not here forever. So just make the most of it. If you're always sad in life, it's going to kind of suck. You can't, rewind or, load your save state, nothing like that. You're just, make the most of it, guys. Woo.
That's great. Thank you very much. This has been...
Thanks, Kim. It was great talking.
So that was a great interview. I would definitely say I was not surprised by any of it, getting to watch him grow up from the age of 3 until now he's going to grade 8. Definitely charismatic, and he holds himself I don't know how else to just describe it, like crazy. I remember afterwards, all the guests that we had, they approached him right after saying that they wanted to interview him as well for their own blogs or podcasts.
Well, he certainly has that kind of energy, that charisma about him. And I would also say that when you meet a person like this, especially a young child or a young person who's not a child, he's a youth, behind them are often parents who are pretty amazing too. And his parents are. They've got energy, they're always positive, they're always boosting him up. It's just incredible to watch what they do and how they support him in this. And I think that's just as important to note that. And how do you support a person like this who is excelling at everything he does? So they're behind him, they're encouraging him, and it's pretty exciting talking to him. I would say that a child who can, or a youth, and a child, any youth and children who can speak with global trailblazers, this is a demonstration of what our youth can do and how they can really bring this world into something quite exciting for our future.
Yeah, so again, make sure you check out his podcast at cbc.ca/radio/Tai Asks Why. Definitely a great podcast. If you're a student, give it a listen. I believe it's meant for all ages. Parents as well, if you're driving in the car, turn it on. Or if you're teachers, feel free to send this out to your parents. Again, cbc.ca/radio/Tai Asks Why. Because really, you just want to be able to expose them to people their age, asking these deep level questions and letting them know that it's totally fine.
And I have one more thing, and that is a lot of people right now are looking to see if they can do some homeschooling. And this is a great resource for homeschooling. And it's not only because it's good information, it's the fact that the kids are listening to another kid ask the questions. And that's pretty powerful. So thank you so much, Tai, and way to go. Thank you, everybody.
We'll talk to you later, and we'll make sure that we get that podcast URL directly in the description. And for those on YouTube, we'll have it up here or here. It's the first time doing this, so I'm not sure where it's going to go.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.